Hello YouTube! If you haven't been following the live streams, long time no see. Recently, a video hit my feed that forced me out of retirement. A video by Eubank, a famous fitness influencer who is very popular with teenagers, who announced that he was going to jump on drugs. And the second I saw that, I knew that I had to react, because this is a decision that has massive implications for himself, but also for the people that follow him and the fitness community at large. So I need to talk about it. First off, the video starts with a bunch of excuses, something that I'm very familiar with, because when natty influencers jump on drugs, they always start with excuses to explain why it's not really their fault, they are being forced to jump on drugs. In this segment, Alex explains that he's being forced to jump on drugs due to social pressure, because people make fun of him for being small, but also because apparently he has hit a natty limit. He's no longer able to progress. These 2 points you are going to see are completely ridiculous and backwards, and they make no sense. But before we get into that, I first want to insist on one thing that Alex said that immediately made me jump out of my skin. And that is the fact that he insisted that he's been lifting natty for 8 years. And he seems to believe that this length of time constitutes a long time. Because in his mouth, it seems as if he's saying, I've been natty for 8 years, that is it. I've put in my time, I've put in my hours. And the reality is that this is not true at all. The majority of natural bodybuilders that I know that are big have been training for a minimum of 15 years, and that is a minimum. So when someone who is barely getting started in the realm of natural bodybuilding dare say this as if to say, that's it, I've run my course, there's nothing else I can do, bogus. This is an excuse, this is not true. And I really want young men who are listening to this video right now to know this for a fact. If people try to tell you that after 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, your gains stop, they're lying to you, and all of the time, influencers who say that to justify their drug use. In my opinion, pretending that you earn the right to jump on PEDs because you've been at it long enough is just a shitty way to deflect criticism by claiming that you've tried everything you could and nothing worked. When in truth, this is not the case. And we see that particularly in Alex's case, because we are dealing with someone who never really bulked and never really allowed his body to enter a stage where it could grow. You have spent years and years on social media being lean and starving yourself for clout. Are you really that surprised that you're going nowhere? This is normal. This is how it works for natural lifters. Your physique is no longer evolving, even though you're training hard, because you are not giving it what it needs. This is your natural limit. You have created your own limit. And I know for a fact that many young men do that to themselves because they follow that type of influencers and they end up going for aesthetics, which is code words for being 160 pounds for years and years and years, and asking yourself, why am I going nowhere? You're going nowhere because you're not following the right influencers. And this is especially visible in Alex's case because in the video, he claims that he understands that people are going to advise him to bulk and that he doesn't want to hear that. This is the equivalent of someone who is drowning and you trying to tell them, hey, you have to swim like this to save yourself. And the guy tells you, fuck you, I don't want your advice, as he is drowning. And I understand perfectly why he doesn't want to hear that advice. It's because it goes against his business model. His business model, like many aesthetic influencers, is to stay shredded year-round, to be able to have a six-pack, to look good, so that you can actually appeal to the eyes of the teenagers that consume your content, because this is pretty much all you have to offer. But the byproduct of that is that, yeah, you're in a constant state of depletion, and so you cannot progress. Every single big natural bodybuilder that reaches 180, 190, 200 plus has spent many years in a bulk, many years in a sizable caloric surplus, which is not necessarily a dirty bulk. I'm not telling you to get fat. I'm just saying you need to be in a surplus at some point if you want to get bigger. That is just logical. You cannot improve your physique if you are unwilling to allow your body to gain size and to gain mass, because it is highly unlikely that your dream physique is at 160 pounds. most likely you are a bit higher than that. Now imagine if you attempted to build the statue of your dreams, but you refused to add clay, and you only wanted to take chunks away. Well, you're going to end up with a pebble, not with a statue. To get a statue, you have to be willing to add. But that's impossible for aesthetics influencers, because if they do that, they lose their shreds. And in truth, when you're a natty fitness influencer that banks on aesthetics, that's all you have. Which is why I find it so ironical when Alex says that he's not here to please anyone. Bro, you're a fitness influencer. Pleasing your audience is literally 100% of your job. That's all you're supposed to do. And by jumping on drugs, you're just continuing doing the same thing. You're doing what is going to make you more popular. By trying to get more muscular without losing on the shreds, you're going to sell your audience a bigger version of yourself that is going to be more attractive and get you more clout. Look at all of these fitness influencers, these teenagers and young males who are on a shit ton of drugs and who are widely popular. Alex just took one look at that and said, okay, I want some of that pie as well. So what's going to happen is that due to the nature of the algorithm, he's going to lose out on the people that care about him staying natty and are going to be replaced by a new batch of teenagers. So at the end of the day, he will lose nothing save for his own principles. And that's if he ever had principles in the first place. Maybe he was just doing this aesthetic natty thing because it was popular, and now that it's no longer popular, he's just switching to what works. And that is, in his own words, jumping into the world of testosterone, which is a very poetic way of saying jumping on drugs, to become the best version of himself. A very interesting twist of words as well, because if we stop and focus on that for a second, that's a horrible message to send to his community. Because here we have a guy with a pretty decent physique, who serves as a role model to many young men like him, who decided that lifting natty simply isn't enough, it's not satisfying enough, and he needs drugs to feel okay with who he is. He needs drugs to continue growing as a man. But if a successful influencer like him with a dream physique couldn't be content with what he had, what are the odds a random teenager that watches his content will, with what they have, which is much less? He's essentially telling his audience that there is no point in doing things the right way and staying natty, because eventually you'll need to jump on drugs if you want more. And when young men and teenagers hear that, a lot of them come to the following conclusion, which is there is no point in being natty in the first place, because eventually you're going to have to jump on cycles. So why not jump on cycles right away? And this is what we're seeing more and more. Young men who are not even a year into their lifting journey who are already on testosterone. And that is horrible because, one, it's terrible for their health. Two, they will never get to see the beauty and strength that their bodies would have been able to accomplish naturally. And the same also goes for Alex because, and I'll repeat it later in the video, the guy is an early intermediate. He barely scratched the surface of what is possible naturally. And now he's telling people he needs drugs to take the next step. That is completely bogus. But also, as I just demonstrated, dangerous, because now Alex is also projecting his insecurities and issues onto the people that watch him. And to that, I know that many people, Alex included, might say that he isn't responsible for his audience. We now live in this age of individualism where I get mine and I do whatever I want with my body and it has absolutely no influence on no one. That might be true if you're a private citizen, but if you're a public figure, that is not correct. When you are an influencer, like it or not, you are your brother's keeper. Your actions and words have an influence on the people that consume them. You can't just get power over people to make money and be famous. You also have to accept the fact that it comes with personal responsibility. You are now responsible if some guy who follows you ends up throwing their lives away because they followed your example, because you told them that the only way to grow as a man and to keep improving was to jump on drugs. Because let's not pretend that what Alex is doing is innocent here. We're not dealing with someone who woke up one day and said, you know what, this is what I need in life. He's clearly been thinking about this for a very long time, and he's tried to find a way to announce it to his audience in a way that is most beneficial for him. And he's in truth always done that. If you're an Alex follower, you can like him if you want, but the dude built his following mostly by trying to appeal to whatever teenagers like. So that included the Christian LARP, that included the anime LARP. Is that even things that he believes? Is this aligned with his principles? You could say that it is, but look at the way he just tossed away his natty card like it means fucking nothing. To me, that is quite revealing. We're dealing with someone who is absolutely okay with turning his back on his principles because these were things that served him in the past, and when they stop serving him, he just tosses them aside. And as someone who cares deeply about the natural community, of course, it enrages me because the guy is now set on making a series of videos where he's going to document his growth after he jumps on PEDs. That is incredibly vile because these videos are going to be showcased to whom? To the natural lifters who have followed him, who have made him who he is, who have given him his popularity. That is who is going to be exposed to that garbage. Because that's not new. Again, Alex is just copying something that he's seen work with other influencers. Guys who had no experience in the gym, who jump on drugs, and who showcase massive results. These videos are popular. Why? Because teenagers live through these videos vicariously. Because that way they get to experience what it's like to become a monster in 6 months. And while some of them will just live through the videos, which is already bad enough because it means they won't put in the fucking work, others will be inspired by them and will start their own series of videos that will inspire other people. So this entire thing is not innocent and it's not victimless. If Alex is a victim, it's on him. He's victimizing himself. But the fact that he's then doing that to his audience and putting that evil on his audience, to me, needs to be called out. And the excuses that he presents to explain why he needs to hope on drugs are laughable. First, he complains that he feels like shit when shredded, which is normal. You're not supposed to stay shredded year-round. It's supposed to be a few weeks before the show. The rest of the year, you should be in maintenance or bulking. That is what works for natural lifters. And he even admits as much, because he says that he feels much better at a normal body fat percentage. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. But for some reason, he's not able to connect the dots and say, okay, well, this means that I need to stay at this body fat. No, because of course, he's not aesthetic when he's not shredded. And since that doesn't align with his business model, he can't have that. You know what this is called? Body dysmorphia. And sometimes it comes with a host of eating disorders and other mental problems. Because if you only feel comfortable when your body is super lean, even though it's coming with a host of issues, that is the sign that you have a problem. And that problem was most likely created by your unhealthy consumption of social media. You keep watching videos of dudes on PEDs who are impossibly lean year-round, and you start to apply that image to your body, which of course doesn't match because you're natural, and you start feeling like shit. So either it ruins your self-worth, or you start to think about jumping on PEDs, which is exactly what happened to Alex. This is a kid that was doing just fine with the way his body looked, he was fine with his performance, and then what happened? He started to become more popular, and because of that, he started to have contact and communication with other influencers that are all on drugs, all massive, and that gave him body dysmorphia. Because when you constantly hang out with guys who are your age and who are much stronger and much bigger, you start to develop an inferiority complex. It's unavoidable. And so you start to think, these guys are on drugs. Maybe if I jump on drugs as well, I will be able to compete with them. It's also about that. And this is why I say that PED use is contagious. Because keep in mind that if it happened to Alex, it can happen to you. Because you also consume the content of these guys, of these steroid users, and it also wrecks your self-image, gives you body dysmorphia, and it teaches you the wrong lesson in life. Because these guys are not good role models. For the most part, they're impatient and they want results quickly, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get these results quickly, even if it comes at the detriment of themselves and the people around them. And Alex is following in their tracks because look at the way he talks about being 10% body fat year-round with a crazy sex drive. The guy only has his eyes on the benefits. At no point in the video is he thinking about the consequences of jumping on tests at such a young age. Now let me be clear. This is stupidity. Every single young male who jumps on drugs because they want to get lean and bigger faster is stupid. It's the definition of the word. For the simple reason that they're not thinking long term. And they also seem to not realize that whatever you get on drugs and on cycles, you don't get to keep. So for Alex who wants a high libido, sure, he'll get that on PEDs. You get crazy libido on PEDs, but guess what? Once you're off cycle, you have zero libido. So are you willing to make that trade-off? Are you willing to be dependent on that substance for the rest of your life to be able to get your dick up? If you're only in your 20s, that's something you must think about. I think the guy who was talking about like getting Cialis or like some sort of Viagra, bro, you're in your 20s. Why the fuck are you taking these drugs? Do you know that this is going to give you erectile dysfunction for the rest of your life once you come off, right? It's going to ravage your system. Your body will not be able to function once you get off the drugs. And the same goes for every single benefit that you get on cycle. You want to keep it? Okay, you have to keep injecting. And this is why TRT clinics have a very juicy business. It's because when they get a customer, that's a customer for life. Because you can't just decide one day, oh, I don't want it anymore. You're hooked. Your body is not able to produce it anymore, so you have to keep paying them. Alex went to a clinic, he got tested within the normal range. So there was nothing wrong with his test production, and he was immediately offered TRT. Because of course, that's their business models. They sell testosterone. They give TRT to 100% of people who show up. They don't care if you need it or not, they just know that legally they get to prescribe it to you, and so they do. Which means it has nothing to do with health, and everything to do with being a legal loophole to sell steroids to young men who don't even qualify for hormonal replacement therapy. Because if you look at the name, it's supposed to replace something that isn't there. If your test production is normal and someone prescribes you more tests, guess what this is? Steroid use. But there's something even more vicious in this, and that is that once you say, fuck the natty way, I will take drugs to get more results, you just essentially admitted to yourself that you can no longer grow without these drugs. So once you cross that Rubicon, that's it. In for a pound, in for a penny, or I think it's actually the other way around. You are now liable to take more and more and more. You already crossed the line in your mind. You're already no longer natty. And if this was only about Alex, if it was only about him throwing his life away, sure, why not? He's his own person. But that's not the case because, as I said, the entire video is essentially an advertisement for a TRT clinic. The guy opens by saying, there is no point in lifting natty, you make no results, jumping on drugs is better, it's perfectly safe. Oh, and by the way, guys, I have a link for you guys if you want to click for a TRT clinic that sponsors me. Funny how that works out. So not only is Alex Eubank betraying the audience that made him popular in the first place, he's also trying to sell them out for a buck, not caring about the consequences this will have on their mental and physical health. In the business, we call this a piece of shit move. Last I checked, Jesus never tried to sell his disciples, but maybe we have different understandings of what Christian values constitute. The funniest thing being, if we can even call that funny, that he's doing all of that because of social pressure. Because people in his comments have been making fun of him because he's apparently small and weak, which, granted, he is, but I've already explained why. It's not because of his natural limit or because he has no potential, he seems to have great potential. He just doesn't really seem to want to actually train the way that would get him a bigger body without the use of drugs. But for someone who wants to jump on tests to feel more like a man, this is the most bitch-made excuse I've ever heard. You're letting people get to your head to the point that you're going to fuck up your health just to prove them wrong. But by doing that, you're proving them right. You're proving them and you're admitting that you don't have what it takes to get big naturally and that you have to resort to steroids to get an advanced physique. So at the end of the day, the haters were right. Succumbing to peer pressure is just the sign that you're weak, malleable, and at the end of the day, immature. And I'll end by saying that there is also no such thing as taking steroids in a healthy way. That is impossible. It's a drug. Blood work only detects so much. And there is a reason why enhanced bodybuilders die on average 20 to 30 years before natural bodybuilders. It's because the practice of taking drugs is inherently unhealthy, regardless of how careful you are. Now, I don't know if Alex is going to watch this video. I know from the segment I watched that he already put in his own head that a bunch of haters were going to make criticism videos on him. This is not a criticism. This is just me stating facts. You are throwing your life away. Now, if you don't want to listen, I'm just some random guy at the end of the day, that's fine. But the people I really want to touch is Alex Eubank's audience. Because I really hope that this video is going to make you realize that the person that you like so much is making a terrible choice. And I hope that you don't follow in his footsteps because that would be a mistake. At the end of this video, Alex asks you if you want to stay tuned, if you want to keep watching him taking PEDs and getting bigger and bigger. And I think that your answer should be no. I think that consuming his content will just encourage him to go down further on the path of PED use, and I think it's going to be a horrible influence on you as well. So if you actually care about him and his health and you want to make a positive change, remember that you are the algorithm. You are who decides what content becomes popular. If you are sick and tired of people who shit on the natty way, of people who jump on PEDs getting massively viral and then attracting all of this attention and giving these horrible advices and being these bad influencers, then you know what you must do. There are so many great natural content creators out there. You are not stuck with this scum. And that is going to conclude this video. If you liked it, if you want to support the channel, the first link in the description is my Ko-fi page. You can pledge or donate. Anything is appreciated. I'm going to try and make as many videos as possible with the little time that I have. But if I can't, remember that I am streaming every Saturday from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. EST. If you're interested, I will see you there. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.